Our selection today is Hold On. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Walk on, just a little while longer. Oh, walk on, just a little while longer. Oh, walk on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Pray on, just a little while longer. Pray on, just a little while longer. Whoa, pray on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Sing on, just a little while longer. Sing on, just a little while longer. Whoa, sing on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Hold on, just a little while longer. Whoa, hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Whoa, hold on, just a little while longer. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright. Everything will be alright.
The oracles of the UCI. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things, have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua, the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29 to chapter 5, verse 1 through 4. Let no corrupt communications proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good for the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness, and wrath, and anger, and clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yeshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becoming saints, neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 1 and 2. Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools. For they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verse 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions. My name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verse 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in unto him, and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame, and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Today we're going to go into some things about agape love. As we know, anything that we start, we must start it with our best foot forward, understanding that things will decline as we go further and further down into the process. This is why Yahweh would not allow the older generation to go into his promised land. They had already gotten to a point in their heart and in their mind that they would not fully accept Yahweh. They would not fully accept Yahweh's law. They would not fully accept Yahweh's direction. So in order to start the kingdom off with its best foot forward, what he had to do was just keep that older generation from going in and allow the children to move forward, and the children move with that best foot forward. And even in that, after a time, of course, those children end up falling away, but it would have been much quicker had he allowed that generation that still had captivity in their heart and in their minds, if they still had that in their mind while entering into Yahweh's land, it was going to cause some issues right off the rip. Today's sermon is entitled Limitless Love. John 16 and verse 21 states, "A woman, when she is in travail, has sorrow, because her hour is come. But as soon as she is delivered of the child, she remembers no more the anguish for joy that a man is born into the world." The woman no longer deals in anguish, as she is able to draw from the account of love that she has stored in her heart. When this same situation happens to a woman with a shallow pool of love, she is not able to move to the stage of joy that a child is brought into the world. She instead blames the child for every pound of weight she has gained. She shows the child every stretch mark and proclaims, "You did this to me." When a man and woman are given their firstborn child, they become overwhelmed with love she and her husband have for that child. When that woman has another child, she is able to draw from her endless account of love as needed. When those who have a limited amount of love in their hearts are presented with this situation, they have to take love from one in order to love the other. Let's begin today's sermon in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not love, I am become as sounding brass or tinkling cymbal.
In other words, the words that proceed out of our mouths are just noise at this point, because they have no substance connected to them. In Bible study, we went over the thing about the Good Samaritan, how you had a Levite, you had a priest, and then you had a wounded man. The Levite and the priest went right by the wounded man, all being people educated in the law, all having all the understanding of Yahweh's word, and they had not an ounce of compassion. There was no more love left in their heart to deal with the wounded man. But they knew the law, though. They knew the word, though. But when it got time to having compassion on this man who was wounded, they didn't have enough love left for that. So the law didn't do them any good. Understanding the word didn't do them any good. And it hurt the wounded man at the end. But here comes the Good Samaritan, who, by the way, was one of the ones that Yahshua said, don't go to the Gentiles and don't go to the city of the Samaritans. But yet it was this person, somebody from that land, who had compassion on the man. The very people who he said, don't take the word to yet. Those were the people who had compassion on the wounded individual. Go ahead.
And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not love, I am nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor.
Because all of these are outward things. All of these are things that people can see. People can see when you donate to the poor. People can see when you do all of these things. Having love is something that's internal. And although people smile and hug, you may not be able to see right away how deep that pool of love goes. Go ahead.
And though I give my body to be burned and have not love, it profiteth me nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Love suffereth long and is kind. Love envieth not. Love vaunteth not itself. It is not puffed up.
Mm-hmm.
Doth not behave itself unseemly. Seeketh not her own. Is not easily provoked. Thinketh no evil.
You have to then look at all of these attributes of love, because you'll find that immediately people will declare how much love they have for one another. But then you look at the attributes of that. Love suffers long and is kind. Love envies not. Love vaunts not itself, is not puffed up, does not behave itself unseemingly, seeks not her own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil. So when we then hear those terms, I love you, how much of that is contained in those statements? Go ahead.
Rejoiceth not in lawlessness, but rejoiceth in the truth.
If we rejoice not in iniquity, when it even come to us, we're going to slap it down and move it somewhere else. When that iniquity knock on our door and say, hey, look, I got such and such. No, you're going to have to take that somewhere else. Because we're not going to rejoice in that. Go ahead.
Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things.
And you will be surprised as soon as the right situation and circumstances present itself, all of a sudden, people don't believe in the word that they once proclaimed. They proclaimed the word at one point. Soon as the situation and circumstance happen in their life. See, when you deal with this stuff in this book, these people didn't have a book. Their life was the book. So they had to go through these things. We looking at it from our point of view, standing here reading the book. They had to live it. So when you talk about being a servant of Yahweh, we come into church, we say, okay, I'm going to join the media department. I'm going to join the maintenance department. You know what these people was in? They was in the life department. Join that one. Their life was their ministry. He used their life. That was their service. Now, how you clock out of that department? When you get done with the media department, he closed that door and he go home. When the maintenance man get done cleaning, he put the broom and the mops up. When you in the life department, when do you clock out? Go ahead, bro.
1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 8. Love never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part.
We know in part and prophesy in part. This is one of the things. You will never, ever have this whole thing of Yahweh unlocked. And if you're thinking that you're going to get it, now I'm going to get this, and once I get it, I'm going to be cool. You ain't never going to get this. You're going to be walking your whole life trying to get and understand this. Matter of fact, when you think you got it, that's when you're in the deepest trouble that you have ever imagined in your life. Because this grows. And levels of understanding grow. And if you decide you're going to stay on level 2, that's a choice on you. You read something and you get a level of understanding. That's what I learned to say when people say, do you understand this? I say, I understand it on the level that Yahweh has allowed me. Because I've learned that a couple years later, then he gave me something else on the same line. Wait a minute. I read this 20 times. I ain't never get that before. Right. He just gave me another level. So I learned not to say I understand it. I understand a level of it. I don't know how many levels that go to. He didn't share that with me. So I have to always prepare myself for when he decide he going to give me another one. Go ahead.
But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I taught as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
All right. And are we able to do that? Are we able to have the thought process and even deal as a child? It says be as a child when it comes down to anger and malice, because the children will fight each other. We can go in that lobby and them kids will be going at it. You know how many times I done broke them kids up from fighting in that lobby? And they at it, Jack. I mean, they done threw each other all over the shoes. One of them got a shoe on his head. He all off in there. 2 minutes later, the same kids are hugging. Let that happen to one of us grown people. 2 months later, I can catch somebody looking at the side of their eye. I'm gonna get that knuckle right there. That was 2 months ago. You still looking at the person cross-eyed. The kid, 2 minutes later, they back playing. Now, what's interesting is to watch the kids go at one another, right? Then look at how the parents wasn't even in the room when the event happened. Then watch how they start looking at each other funny. They wasn't even in the altercation. But now they cutting eyes at each other. That little knuckle hit my baby. Right. But them kids all right. What you doing? I had a little boy run at my boy and hit him and knock his head into the concrete so hard, everybody flipped their wig. And then they was looking at me to see what I was gonna do. They was kids. Kids do dumb. Let me tell you something. If you live past being a child, you are already tough because you should have died several times. I did some of the dumbest stuff when I was out watching them cartoons. Nobody tell me that them cartoons wasn't real when I was little. And we had a little side that you jump off the side of the house. And I just knew when I jumped off the side of the house with that trash bag, I was gonna float down. Now in my head, it went wonderful in my head, okay? Cause I was gonna float right down and I was gonna, land, both feet. And then I was just gonna take off running. It was a real superhero type thing, the way I had pictured it in my head. But in real life application, I hit the ground really, really hard. And I learned some things there. But I lived. I limped for a little bit. But I lived. And I got past it and I forgot it until I did something else stupid. And then I thought about the stupid thing I had done before. Okay, do we forget that we were kids too? Go ahead, brother. Did you finish that?
That's what you want me to start.
I want you, yeah. Go ahead and finish.
All right. For now, we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. And now abideth faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love.
But the greatest of these is love. Brother, read the note on that next graphic there.
Agape, from G25, love, that is affection or benevolence. Specifically, plural, a love feast. Feast of love, their love.
All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 18. This is the word that we see for love. That word there is agape. And you find out that we have to do some things to get to a level of understanding of this agape love thing. Matthew chapter 18, and we're going to read verses 21 through 35. Because, nowadays people love everything. I love my car. I love my house. I love my dog.
Then came Cephas to him and said, Adonai, how often shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times?
Now, this is a serious question because it then depends on how much of an account of love does each individual have in their heart to be able to do that. See, there's some people, as soon as one altercation happens, they no longer want to be friends. They no longer want to be in a relationship. They no longer want to be in that place. They no longer want to be in anything. And all it takes is one situation. That means there's a very shallow pool of love there, that it dries up instantly. So there's some situations of love, as long as everything goes their way, it's good. But as soon as there's one bump in the road, that pool is automatically dried up. And just to show you some things, Yahweh will throw a few bumps in the road just so he can show you some things. Before my elder died, I had a friend, and I mean, you couldn't tell. I mean, you couldn't separate us. We was thick as thieves, Jack. Everywhere I went, he went. But it didn't dawn on me, you know, my elder had put me in charge of a lot of things. So I had a few familiar friends because I had a position. Then my elder died, and I became a threat to the next regime. So they got rid of me quick. Then all of a sudden, the friends who was real close started disappearing. I no longer had the power, so it seemed. This is one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, but I didn't know it. Yahweh threw that bump in the road so that all of the fake friends left. You know who was left standing? Kish and Eliel. And they had no reason to be my friend. They done took every bit of power from me. I had no more power in the congregation. Everything was what. Matter of fact, I did not only lose my power, they assigned spies to me. I went to the bathroom and somebody was just standing out there listening, trying to see if it was number one or number two. I mean, I went to the parking lot. They sent people to go follow me to the parking lot. I look up, I say, hey man, why every time I go somewhere I see somebody? Hey bro, they got people following you, man. This church now. These two dudes had no reason to stay around me. There was no anything of benefit for them. But that's how Yahweh show you. Now, as Yahweh made me go, set up my own thing, do my own thing, those same friends who were this close when I had something, then they showed back up a couple years later. Now they want to know, can I come over and do this? Can I come over and do that? These same people now, when they was homeless, I brought them in. They left me cold like it was nothing. But if it wasn't for that bump in the road, I would have never known who was there to really be there and who was there because it was convenient to be around the dude who had power in the congregation. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 22. Yeshua saith unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7.
Now you got to have a deep pool of love to be able to have that kind of forgiveness. See, you got a shallow pool. This right here is this ain't gonna work. This right here ain't gonna work right here with a shallow pool. We're going to be deep off in the hatred at this point. Go ahead.
Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. But for as much as he had not to pay, his master commanded him to be sold, and his wife, and children, and all that he had.
And we have, not grown up in that era where they really had, debt prison. But they have really started talking about bringing all of those things back, where when you can't pay something here, they might garnish your check or do some things like that. No. You go back far enough, if you sign your name to something and you can't pay it, you go to jail. Mm-hmm. This is why you go to some of these places and you see some of these car lots, and they got, you'll run into the normally Indians or something like that, and they have all these fine cars. And it's a buy here, pay here lot. And he got Bentleys and Ferraris. How you have a Bentley and a Ferrari at a pay here lot? Well, they got debt prisons over there where they come from. So when they get a $200,000 Mercedes and they can't pay for it, you don't get to just take it back. You got to go to jail. So they take that car, dump that car on the side of the road, and take off running. Where he going? So they just got cars. They just going to leave over there. And I'm trying to figure out now how did dude going to have a Bentley on Old National Highway selling it at a buy here, pay here lot? You got hood dudes up in there getting Ferraris. What? But they just pay you. Interesting. We taking advantage of that because the same game happens here. Most of the stuff that's stolen here, they ship it to Nigeria. It's legal there. It was only stolen when it was here. Them numbers don't mean nothing once they get to Nigeria. Go ahead, bro.
The last part of verse 25. And payment to be made, verse 26. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Adonai, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Then the master of that servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt. But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence, and he laid hands on him, and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest.
Right, that's all we need. You owe us. You know, we can owe a grand, but somebody owe us $100, and we choking them out. Wait a minute, now you owed a grand. They only owed you $100. You choked them out. Go ahead.
And his fellow servant fell down at his feet, and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all.
You have to first of all look at the level. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet. The man can't get no lower than that. He can't get no lower than that, begging for compassion and mercy. But when you're dealing with somebody with a shallow pool of love, it really don't matter what come out of your mouth. Go ahead.
And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their master all that was done. Then his master, after he had called him, said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee, and all that debt, because thou desiredest me.
Now, consider all of the things that we ask Yahweh for. Consider all the things that we pray for in Yahshua's name. Consider all of the things that we want forgiveness for. Go ahead.
Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on your fellow servant, even as I had pity on you?
There wasn't enough left in my account to have pity. Go ahead.
And his master was wroth, angry, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him.
Right. So this didn't happen to him because the master had said, I will not allow this. This happened to him because he wouldn't do the same to someone else. He had already been forgiven of his debt. And I think sometimes we forget that. That there's some things that we should have been already yoked up about. There's some things that we should have already been punished for. There's some things that don't nobody know but us and maybe a few people. You should have already been dealt with because of it. Go ahead.
So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if you from your hearts forgive not every one his brother their trespasses.
Right, and we know that there is an equation for that. And we have to mention that when we say that, because a lot of times people will just take that and think that means do whatever, and you're supposed to just forgive. It says if your brother sin against you, rebuke him. If your brother repents, then forgive him. Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians chapter 4. And we're going to read verses 17 through 32.
This I say, therefore, and testify in the Adonai, that ye henceforth walk not as other Gentiles walk, in the vanity of their mind.
Now, even though when we read these letters, these things, Ephesians is Ephesus, we have Galatians is Galatia, Corinth, we have all of these places that are in Europe. This word is being brought to them. They were not instructed out of the law. So a lot of these things have to be explained unto them. These things our people were supposed to learn from studying all of the law of Yahweh our Elohim. But having these things put in some of the ways to help the Euro Gentiles also helps us, because we have been alienated from the law as it stands at this point. Go ahead.
Having the understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of Elohim through the ignorance that is in them, because of the blindness of their heart.
Blindness of their heart, not the blindness of their eyes. Ain't nothing wrong with their eyes. A blind heart is something altogether different. See, that's a shallow pool. See, when there's a shallow pool, no matter what you show it, it can't see. You can talk to somebody about the Sabbath for 4 years straight. Talk and talk and talk and talk. And then one day, there's just a little bit of depth in that heart, and they act like you just said it yesterday. Oh, the Sabbath! I've been talking to you about this for 4 years straight. What do you mean? You act like I just said this yesterday. Yeah, but my heart was shallow then. Oh, right. Now there's just enough depth to deal with that. And that took years. Go ahead.
Who being past feeling have given themselves over unto lasciviousness, to work all uncleanness with greediness. But ye have not so learned the Mashiach, if so be that ye have heard him, and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Yeshua, that ye put off concerning the former conversations, the old man.
Right. Your former conversation is not just what you say, it is what you do. This is the former life that we once had. And then, Yahweh is not trying to change and take everything from us. All right. Some of those things that were that happened in your past help to make you what you are at this point. But then do you allow that to then be used for his purpose? Go ahead.
Which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind.
This is what causes people to have a shallow pool of love. They cannot be renewed in the spirit of their mind. This is what I grew up thinking. This is what I'm accustomed to. This is where I'm going to be. And that pool will never get filled up. They got a pool, they putting water in on one side, but it's a hole on the other side. And they just keep filling it, and the pool don't never get filled. Because all the love that keep going in, just flowing right out the other end. Because they got a block in their heart. This is all I'm going to deal with right here. This is as far as I can go. And there's nothing that you can do about that. That's a decision that each person have to make for themselves, whether or not they're going to open up their heart to receive things. If they are not going to be renewed in the spirit of their mind, when Yahweh starts allowing things to be read and understood, they will read them. They will hear them with their ears. They will see them with their eyes, but they will not receive it with their heart. Go ahead.
And that you put on the new man, which after Elohim is created in righteousness and true holiness. Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another.
Mm-hmm.
Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath.
And do we attempt to exercise that? Be you angry and sin not. It is impossible for us to not get angry. It is impossible. The only way for two people to constantly agree is for one of y'all to not be thinking. Somebody just got to decide that they're not going to use their brain at all. That's the only way for two people to agree constantly.
Well, I'm just going to turn my brain off and you just tell me what we think.
What? That ain't going to work. If two people thinking, sooner or later we're going to run into some opposing ideas. Okay, so what we do after that? We just going to fight and choke each other out after we get to an opposing argument? That ain't going to work either. Go ahead.
Neither give place to the devil. Let him that stole steal no more.
It says, neither give place to the devil. That's on his own line for a reason. Because once you do, he all in that mix.
You know, if I was you, I wouldn't take that. You know, that is so disrespectful. You know, they're looking at you. See the way they're looking at you, they're thinking about you, they're talking about you. You that person. I bet you won't swing right now.
Right. And then after he convinced you to do something stupid, he leave you there to deal with all the stupidity that you have just done. Or once he convinced you, he's out. He ain't there when the authorities come.
Oh, here come the police. I'm out.
He gone. Man, you got to talk to the police. Who convinced you to do that?
Well, he was right here.
Now he gone. Ain't nobody left there but you. Go ahead.
Verse 28. Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands the thing which is good.
Working with his hand. Let him that steal no more. Working with his hand the things which is good. I've been meaning to check out a video that Brother Hananiah sent, and it was talking about somebody was mentioning how the preachers need to have jobs instead of fleecing the flock. When you talk about these dudes in this book, these dudes had jobs. They wasn't just milking everybody for whatever money they could get. And I praise Yahweh that he has allowed me to do the same thing. Because one thing I can tell you that they ran into that they ain't gonna run into on Sunday morning. When you teach the truth, you're gonna get under somebody's skin. Mm-hmm. See, when you lie all day, when you just tell people,
God ain't angry with you. You are more than conquerors.
You do that all day, it's gonna be a lot of money in that plate. But when you start telling people, you keep that up and you're gonna burst into a ball of flame.
They're like, you know, I ain't getting him no money. He get 1 penny today. There you go. 1 penny. And I got the dustiest penny I could find. I put it all in the dirt before I put it in there.
Right. But my bill's not going to depend on whether or not somebody give their offering or not. See? Thereby enables me to teach the truth no matter whose skin it get under. That door in the same place it was when you came in it. And it's going to be that same place. Soon as you get ticked off, I can't believe he read that. I'm out of here. You're like, open the door so they won't fall. Open that door. Yahweh already got somebody else on the way to take up that seat. Go ahead, bro.
That he may have to give to him that needeth. Verse 29. Let no corrupt communications proceed out of your mouth.
Right, and then we have to deal with what is corrupt communication. There are some things that we should cut off before it starts even getting too deep. I used to we used to hang back in my elder's office when he was alive. And I have watched him several times, and he would be talking, and then another brother would walk up, and he would completely change the subject. And a couple of us would be sitting there looking like, what in the world was that? That brother would stay there 20, 30 minutes. That brother Lee, my elder jumped back to what he was talking about 30 minutes ago. Like that brother was never in the room. And it threw me off. What in the world was that? Corrupt communication is very interesting. Because that was a weaker brother, what my elder was talking about would have been corrupt communication to him. It was not corrupt communication to the experienced people in the word. So then you got people who've been in the word a couple years. Then somebody walk in the door, and then here they go talking to them about some things that should be 4-5 years in. They talking about it 4-5 minutes in. They can't accept that. You just offer some corrupt communication. It is amazing how even the truth in the word could be corrupt communication. Because you just threw a piece of steak on the floor for a baby. What you think he ain't got no teeth? What you think you gonna do with that steak? What did you think he was gonna do with the steak? Bad enough it's steak. You could have at least prepared it for him. Could put it in the blender, chopped it up a little bit, put a little water in there, make him drink it. You could have done something. You just threw a big piece of meat on the floor for a baby. Corrupt communication. And it's confusing how even good parts in the word can be corrupt if they are delivered the wrong way. And I didn't get exactly what my elder was doing at that point. It took a minute. And he wouldn't always tell you right away because he wanted you to grow on your own. But I eventually got that. Go ahead.
Verse 29. Let no corrupt communications proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed unto the day of redemption.
Right. If the Holy Spirit is leading a group in one direction, but you want to go in another direction, then you are grieving the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is trying to do one thing, but then you are trying to do something else. Go ahead.
Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice.
And we read that, and sometimes you read something so much that it becomes, your ear gets numb to it. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Go ahead.
And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for the anointed one's sake hath forgiven you.
All right, let's go to our Luke chapter 19. See, this is why I say you have to balance off your Old Testament reading with your New Testament reading. See, the people who stay in the New Testament all the time, they just walk around, love, love. And then the ones who read the Old Testament all the time, they just walk around and play battle script all day. Zechariah 14, my brother. Come on, bro. No, both of them is going to have you a problem. You can't walk around playing battle script all day, and you can't walk around like some kind of Hebrew flower child. You got to have some balance here. So we're not going to stay in one. We're going to go from one to the other. One to the other. Because we read one too long, then we start getting brothers showing up who want to sacrifice baby lambs and stuff. Then we got to run them out of here. Because then we done been in the Old Testament too long, and now they got a different thought process. Then we stay in the New Testament too long, we got a whole bunch of flower children. We have a big Volkswagen flower van parked out front. We got to have some balance with this. Luke chapter 19, let's start that at verse 1.
And Yahshua entered and passed through Jericho. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich. And he sought to see Yahshua, who he was, and how, and could not ford the press, because he was little of stature. And he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. And when Yahshua came to the place, he looked up and saw him, and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house. And he made haste and came down and received them joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying that he was gone to be guest with a man that is a sinner.
That he was gone to be guest with a man that is a sinner. So they got a problem. They said, well, if this man is so holy, why he going over this sinner house? Go ahead.
And Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Adonai, Behold, Adonai, the half of my goods I have give to the poor. And if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold.
So did the people see that part though? See, did they see that part? They look at the outward appearance of what it looked like that man is. But how many so-called righteous have done that which this so-called sinner has done? Go ahead.
And Yeshua said unto him, This day is salvation come to this house.
So in other words, Yeshua know it. Even if don't nobody else know. If I've taken anything, I've tried to restore it even more than what I took. Go ahead.
For as much as he also is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost.
Right. So he's seeking that which was lost. He was lost, but he's attempting to find his way. And the things that he's doing that other people may not see is showing that he wants to be found. Go ahead.
And as they heard these things, he added and spake a parable, because he was near to Jerusalem, and because they thought that the kingdom of Elohim should immediately appear. He said, therefore, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom, and to return. And he called his 10 servants, and delivered them 10 pounds, and said unto them, Occupy till I come. But his citizens hated him, and sent a message after him, saying, We will not have this man to reign over us.
Right. And this is the same thing that the children of Israel have done over and over again. Give us a king that he should reign over us. Because we don't like the people you set up. We want to set up our own people. And that's what we do. We go, that's why you find people all on the internet trying to find new and different people to learn from. They want to find somebody who agrees with them, not somebody that's going to make them grow. They want to find somebody who's going to allow them to still be who they are, just understand a few more Hebrew things. But still let me be me. Go ahead.
And it came to pass that when he was returned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given the money, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, Adonai, thy pound hath gained 10 pounds.
Now, this is work. This is commerce. This is dealing still in earthly things here to multiply what was given unto him. Go ahead.
And he said unto him, Well, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a very little, have thou authority over 10 cities.
So in other words, how you deal with the things that Yahweh gives you the opportunity to either receive more from Yahweh or to possibly have that which he's given you taken away, depending on how you deal with it. Go ahead.
And the second came, saying, Adonai, thy pound hath gained 5 pounds. And he said likewise to him, Be thou also over 5 cities. And another came, saying, Adonai, behold, here is thy pound, which I have kept laid up in a napkin.
All right, so the one that got 10, he said be over 10 cities. The one that's had brought forth 5, be over 5 cities. So now, all right, this one, he got the same one. So he should get 1 city, right? Read.
For I feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up that thou laidest not down, and reapest that thou didst not sow. And he saith unto him, Out of thine own mouth will I judge thee, thou wicked servant. Thou knewest that I was an austere man, taken up that I laid not down, and reaping that I did not sow? Wherefore then gavest not thou my money into the bank, that at my coming I might have required mine own with interest? And he said unto them that stood by, Take from him the pound, and give it to him that hath 10 pounds.
Right. Take from him. He don't get one city. He was not profitable at all. Take that from him and give it to the one who already had 10. Because now his several ability has grown because of exercising it. So in other words, as you are given things and as you deal with things, then Yahweh gives you more access to that pool to be able to do other things. You don't get access to the pool if you don't do nothing. Go ahead.
And they said unto him, Adonai, he hath 10 pounds. For I say unto you, that unto every one which hath shall be given, and from him that hath not, even that he hath shall be taken away from him. But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither, and slay them before me.
Right. And that's not what we would automatically say out of our mouths, that we would not, that Yahweh would reign over us. We are believing that it's just things that we just do not like, that we just can't deal with in our heart. But what is actually happened is it is showing that low pool of love that we have to draw from, and it ends up with hatred against Yahweh, our Elohim. Let's go to 1 John chapter 4. We have to consider when Yahweh cuts down the time of man's life. You talk about people living and having a very long lives, 800-900 years. What did he cut off access to? He just cut off access to things in the brain. There are things in our brain that we have no idea, that we have zero access to. And as you do what you're supposed to do, he gives you access to things. We keep looking at, oh, he gonna float down and he gonna give me some stuff. You already got the stuff. How were you able to live 1,000 years, but now at 70, we falling over ourselves? At 82, we starting to get dizzy. 82 was a child. It says in that kingdom, a child shall die at 100. If somebody is 100 years old and they die, they're going to be like, well, what happened to him? Why he died? He wasn't but 100. You ever heard how wonderful that is? That at 100, we actually consider it a blessing. Somebody, oh my goodness, they live to be 100. That is such a blessing. This book says 100 is a child. I watched the last days of my grandmother who just passed. And as her brain shut down, they was telling us, all right, her kidneys shutting down, all the other things are shutting down, and her heart is shutting down. Everything shut down bit by bit. And it happened as soon as she wasn't able to talk. Her brain was shutting down everything else. And it was just like a battery going out. When a battery go out in some kind of device, you know this device start moving slower. It start doing certain things. It can't process all of the things that it's supposed to process, and eventually it just stopped. I watched that happen with a body. And all of it was happening in the brain. It was just shutting down little by little by little. And sooner or later, it just went out. And I mean, we was basically just standing there watching as it shut down bit by bit. And the kidneys wasn't shutting down because something was wrong with the kidneys. The kidneys was shutting down because the brain told it to shut off. The heart wasn't shutting down because something was wrong with the heart. The heart was shutting down because the brain said turn off. So whatever Yahweh want to give you, you already got it. All he got to do is flip that switch. Turn that left back part on. That's it. All of a sudden now you doing Michael Jordan from the free throw line. I couldn't do this before. Right. He flipped that switch on. He gave you something that you didn't have before. But he didn't have to float down here to do it. You already have it. You were made with it. But because of how we dealt with it, he cut them switches off. And as we do what we're supposed to do, he start cutting switches back on. He ain't got to give you nothing. You already have it. You wasn't made to die at 100. Go ahead, bro.
1 John chapter 4, verse 1.
Yep.
Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of Elohim, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. Hereby know ye the spirit of Elohim. Every spirit that confesseth that Yahshua the Mashiach is come in the flesh is of Elohim. And every spirit that confesseth not that Yahshua cometh, Yahshua the Mashiach is come in the flesh, is not of Elohim. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, whereof ye have heard that it should come, and even now already is it in the world. Ye are of Elohim, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. They are of the world, therefore speak they of the world, and the world heareth them. We are of Elohim. He that knoweth Elohim heareth us.
Right. This is why you can talk to somebody about the word, and they can be some of the most educated people in your family, and they can't hear none of the words that's coming out of your mouth. You can talk and talk and talk. They ain't gonna hear it. That pool don't work on this side. Go ahead.
He that is not of Elohim heareth not us. Hereby know we the spirit of truth and the spirit of error.
So then there's a spirit of truth and then a spirit of error. And if the spirit of error is driving someone, it don't matter how much truth you speak to them. They cannot receive it. You can speak it all night and day. But I tell you what, when they got that spirit of error, and then they run into somebody else with a spirit of error, oh, all of a sudden it sounds wonderful. Why? Because they entertaining the same spirit. That's why it automatically jumps out to them. They're automatically attracted to this. Why? It matches. Go ahead.
Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of Elohim. And everyone that loveth is born of Elohim, and knoweth Elohim. He that loveth not, knoweth not Elohim, for Elohim is love.
And we know that according to this book, when it talks about love, it is talking about keeping these commandments. See? So it's not this a bunch of mushy stuff that we deal with. It is all of these things combined that ends up getting to that point. But it don't matter how much we hug and twinkle our eyes at one another if we're not going to keep the commandments concerning one another. Go ahead.
In this was manifested the love of Elohim toward us, because that Elohim sent his only begotten Son into the world, that we might live through him. Herein is love, that not that we loved Elohim, but that he loved us, and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins.
Which is an atonement sacrifice. Go ahead.
Beloved, if Elohim so loved us, we ought also to love one another. No man has seen Elohim at any time. If we love one another, Elohim dwelleth in us, and his love is perfected in us. Hereby know, we that we dwell in him, and he in us, because he hath given us of his spirit.
Right. So then when he has given us of his spirit, then we have a deeper pool of love to draw from. See, when we deal with the spirit of error, there's a very shallow pool of love from which to draw from. So you run out of love real quick because ain't nothing in the account. So you can't keep making withdrawals if you ain't making no deposits. Go ahead.
And we have seen and do testify that the Father sent the Son to be the Savior of the world. Whosoever shall confess that Yahshua is the Son of Elohim, Elohim dwelleth in him, and he in Elohim. And we have known and believe that the love that Elohim hath to us, Elohim is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in Elohim, and Elohim in him.
Now, this is where you hear people all the time saying God is love, and they stop there, not understanding that it's going to take all of these things that are contained in this law to be able to deal with what love is. So then the way they perceive love is not the way that Yahweh deals with love. Because they deal with love without the commandments. That's a problem. Because in that, then you're just dealing with an outward show of things. And it's going to take more than that to deal with love. Go ahead.
Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment. Because as he is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love. We love him, because he first loved us. If a man say, I love Elohim, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother, whom he hath seen, how can he love Elohim, whom he hath not seen? And this commandment have we from him, that he who loveth Elohim loveth his brother also.
Because at the end of the day, you are then dealing with Yahweh's creation. All right, you're dealing with Yahweh's sons and his daughters. It is going to be a very difficult thing to prove, to say, I love Yahweh, but I hate his son. What? Consider that on a personal level. How I'm gonna go over, this brother's house and say I love him, but I hate that Caleb. That son, I hate him. Oh my God, I hate him. But I'm gonna be up in his house and his son now. But I love him, but I hate his son. There's gonna be a problem now. Now I just brought a schism in this man's house. Because I say I got love for him, but I hate his son. Well, we the sons and daughters of Yahweh. He made us. So he said, you love me, but you hate my daughter? You hate my son? How you love me? We got a problem there. We got a schism then in Yahweh's house. And he's not going to stand for that. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 11. And all we need to deal with some of those things is a change of perspective. That's what having a renewed mind in the spirit is all about. A change of perspective. Sometimes we have our own perspective and we will not allow Yahweh to change it. And you have to be at a point where you will allow that that change in how you see things. One thing, because I had a motorcycle before and I ended up having to sell it and I eventually got another motorcycle, I had to change my perspective on traveling several times. See, when you got a car and somebody asks you to go out to where Absalom stay, you mad as hell. I ain't going out there, you know I'm following it. Oh, hell no. I ain't going there, bro. You get a motorcycle, you look for reason to go out there.
Absalom, you want some biscuits? I'm just gonna ride on my motorcycle and bring you.
You will go for and you look for change your perspective. When you get a motorcycle, matter of fact, that is motorcycle culture. You know these dudes ride 2 states over to go to one restaurant and turn around and come back. They That's just what we do when you get on a motorcycle. Complete change of perspective about traveling. Now the traveling is completely fun. So when I got a motorcycle, I just started looking for reasons to go somewhere. Somebody said, I left something at the house. You want me to go get it for you? You want me to go get it for you? I look up, Elder Barack shows up at my house on a motorcycle. He don't even have a motorcycle. I don't know who the hell he done got a motorcycle from, but he just shows up at my house on a motorcycle. You think I asked any questions? I don't care if he stole it. Damn it, let's go. We was gone. You hear me? Sooner or later, you know what I'm saying, I had that conversation. Bro, who bike you got? You know what I'm saying? But I wasn't answering that question right off because I wanted to ride, okay? Now, I could have been illegal and everything. We both could have went to jail. I didn't care. The perspective changes when you get a motorcycle, that your thought process about traveling completely changes. And see, because it had been a long pause in between when I had a motorcycle, you know, I hadn't linked up with any other guys who had motorcycles. So I was just looking for reasons to go on long trips. I got it now. I had to go. I said, all right, I'm going to have to get back with something. But I had to be careful because I know I've been in that culture before. There's some real psychotic motorcycle dudes. And I know I can't ride with them. Okay? But it's a change of perspective. And if you let Yahweh change the perspective and how you see things, it will go well with you. 2 Kings and chapter 11, let's start that at verse 1.
And when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the seed royal.
Now, she got much love for her child, but not really. The love has ran out after her child. Go ahead.
But Yehosheba, the daughter of King Joram, sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him from among the king's sons, which were slain.
So it says, when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the seed royal. So now she's killing everybody who might be an heir to the throne. Go ahead.
And they hid him, even him and his nurse, in the bench chamber from Athaliah, so that he was not slain. And he was with her, hid in the house of Yahweh 6 years. And Athaliah did reign over the land.
Right. So she took the kingdom. So we're talking about a woman ruling over the land. Go ahead.
And the 7th year, Jehoiada,
That's right.
sent and fetched the rulers over hundreds, with the captains and the guard, and brought them to him into the house of Yahweh, and made a covenant with them, and took an oath of them in the house of Yahweh, and showed them the king's son. And he commanded them, saying, This is the thing that ye shall do. A third part of you that enter in on the Sabbath shall even buy keepers of the watch of the king's house.
So you have to wonder if she was then trying to preserve her own power, because it was then her son that was ruling, but then once her son was dead, that was going to be somebody else's son. So then now that this other woman was going to get power through her son being king, well, now I'm going to kill all of them. And I'm going to maintain the power that I had while my son was ruling. Go ahead.
And a third part shall be at the gate of Sir, and a third part at the gate behind the guard. So shall ye keep the watch of the house, that it be not broken down. And 2 parts of all you that go forth on the Sabbath, even they shall keep the watch of the house of Yahweh about the king.
Now this is a priest that's having to protect this young king. Go ahead.
And ye shall come past the king around about, every man with his weapons in his hand. And he that cometh within the ranges, let him be slain. And be ye with the king, as he goeth out, and as he cometh in. And the captains over the hundreds did according to all the things that Jehoiada the priest commanded. And they took every man his men that were to come in on the Sabbath with them that should go out on the Sabbath, and came to Jehoiada the priest. And to the captains over hundreds did the priests give King David's spears and shields that were in the temple of Yahweh.
And to the captains over hundreds did the priests give King David spears and shields that were in the temple of Yahweh. So he's got to command that people protect this king from this woman. Because at this point, she has become completely bitter, and she don't care who she kill, so that she maintains control. She don't care what she got to do to maintain control. Go ahead.
And the guard stood, every man with his weapons in his hand, round about the king, from the right corner of the temple to the left corner of the temple, along by the altar and the temple. And he brought forth the king's son, and put the crown upon him, and gave him the testimony. And they made him king, and anointed him. And they clapped their hands, and said, Elohim, save the king. And when Athaliah heard the noise of the guard and of the people, she came to the people into the temple of Yahweh. And when she looked, behold, the king stood by a pillar, as the manner was, and the princess and the trumpeters by the king. And all the people of the land rejoiced and blew with trumpets. And Athaliah rent her clothes and cried, Treason, treason.
Now, the woman who done killed all the children,
Yeah.
full of absolute bitterness, she's the one hollering out, treason, tearing up her clothes. I can't believe this. This is an injustice. Are you kidding me? See, this pool was emptied a long time ago. There was no love left there. To the point where she believes she is completely justified in all the murderous things that she has done, and has gotten accustomed to the power that she has through her murdering of children, and was mad that she couldn't kill the last child, and declares treason when the rightful king is set in place. Go ahead.
But Jehoiada, the priest, commanded the captains of the hundreds, the officers of the host, and said unto them, Have her forth without the ranges, and him that followed her, kill with the sword.
Right. So she persuaded people to follow her in her murderous rants. Mm-hmm. She went by herself. What do you think they had to assign people to watch over this boy for? Because they was going to kill the boy for her. She got some people to help her commit murder. And they listened to her. Go ahead.
For the priest had said, Let her not be slain in the house of Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
And they laid hands on her, and she went by the way by the which the horses came into the king's house, and there was she slain. And Jehoiada made a covenant between Yahweh and the king and the people, that they should be Yahweh's people, between the king also and the people. And all the people of the land went into the house of Baal, and brake it down. His altars, his images, brake they in pieces thoroughly, and slew Mattan, the priest of Baal, before the altars.
Because Israel, in accepting all of these other things, our people then accepted these other gods, and set up their little false priests and all of those things. And when it comes down to setting forth righteousness, they got to go. And this is that thing where people say, you know, I'm going to go to Israel. I'm going to do all of these things. I want to go when Yahweh send us. Because when he send us, guess what we're going to have to do? All them fake priests got to die. I don't want to go over there and look at them. I don't want to go over there and say, shalom. No, I want to go over there and say, get the hell on. That's what I want to say. I'm not going in there to look at you. You got to die. You got to go away from here. I don't want to go visit. When I go, I want to go get my house. Which one of these mine? Yahweh, which one of these mine? Is that one right there? I like that one right there. I don't want to go visit. Because each time our people go back and they got to go set up righteousness, they got to get them people out of there who've been doing all that false worship. We want to go live beside them. Why the people giving us shots to sterilize us to make sure we don't reproduce? That's what you want to go live next to? Read, bro.
And the priests appointed officers over the house of Yahweh. Verse 19. And he took the rulers over hundreds, and the captains, and the guard, and all the people of the land. And they brought down the king from the house of Yahweh, and came by the way of the gate of the guards to the king's house. And he sat on the throne of the kings. And all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was in quiet. And they slew Athaliah with the sword beside the king's house. 7 years old was Jehoash when he began to reign.
Right. So just in dealing with that, we see how long it took for this bitterness to even come to an end. That took a minute. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 26. And when you deal with that bitterness, it puts a limitation as to what we will be able to do in the word. And all bitterness doesn't seem bitter right away. Once you get accustomed to it, it just seems like a thought process and a way of life that we have.
Deuteronomy chapter 26, verse 1. And it shall be, when thou art come in unto the land which Yahweh thy Elohim giveth thee for an inheritance, and possessest it, and dwellest therein, that thou should take of the first of all the fruit of the earth, which thou shalt bring of thy land, that Yahweh thy Elohim giveth thee, and shalt put it in a basket, and shalt go unto the place which Yahweh thy Elohim shall choose to place his name there.
Right. Now, it takes a certain amount of obedience and love to even be able to take the first of your anything to give unto Yahweh. That takes a step that everybody is not able to deal with. Go ahead.
And thou shalt go unto the priest that shall be in those days, and say unto him, I profess this day unto Yahweh thy Elohim, that I am come unto the country which Yahweh sware unto our fathers for to give us. And the priest shall take the basket out of thine hand, and set it down before the altar of Yahweh thy Elohim. And thou shalt speak and say before Yahweh thy Elohim, a Syrian, ready to perish, was my father. And he went down into Egypt, and sojourned there with a few, and became there a nation, great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians evil entreated us, and afflicted us, and laid upon us a hard bondage. And when we cried unto Yahweh, the Adonai Elohim of our fathers, Yahweh heard our voice, and looked on our affliction, and our labor, and our oppression. And Yahweh brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand, and with an outstretched arm, and with great turbulence, and with signs, and with wonders.
But it is amazing how fast our people forgot that.
Yeah.
All these great signs, all these terrible wonders, all of these things were seen, and then they questioned Yahweh immediately following. Soon as they didn't get something they wanted, they automatically questioned Yahweh. They questioned the whole thing. All you had to do was not get them something they want right at that moment, and they ready to go back to Egypt. We just came out of there. You trying to go back? They tried to appoint a captain to turn around and go back. To the point where Yahweh said, oh, I got to kill these people off. I'll make a whole nother nation. Because I'm about sick of them. See, we forget all that when we start running these Israelite pep rallies. That we were this close from him killing all us off. While we running them little pep rallies. It was going to be a pep rally of death. Because he was about to kill every last one of us. And make 12 tribes out of Moshe. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And he hath brought us into this place, and hath given us this land, even a land that floweth with milk and honey. And now, behold, I have brought the first fruits of the land, which you, O Yahweh, has given me. And you shall set it before Yahweh thy Elohim, and worship before Yahweh thy Elohim.
And when you deal with the offering of Cain and Abel, you find that one brought the first fruits, the other one did not. So in the fact that there was some things that one had already picked through, it already did not allow itself to be in its holiest nature because it wasn't the first fruit. Go ahead.
And thou shalt rejoice in every good thing which Yahweh thy Elohim hath given unto thee, and unto thine house, you, and the Levite, and the stranger that is among you. When thou hast made an end of tithing, all the tithes of thine increase, the third year.
Right. They got to prepare this land for this growth. They're coming into a land. They have to prepare it. He's giving them an opportunity to get the stuff before it's time for their tithing. Go ahead.
The third year, which is in the year of tithing, which is the year of tithing, and has given it unto the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that they may eat within thy gates and be filled. Then thou shalt say before Yahweh thy Elohim, I have brought away the hallowed things out of mine house, and also have given them unto the Levite, and unto the stranger, to the fatherless, and to the widow, according to all thy commandments which thou hast commanded me. I have not transgressed thy commandments, neither have I forgotten them.
Because this is a part of love. See, what happens is we'll read the things of the New Testament and we'll hear love, 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 and not understanding that Yahweh was describing and giving us all of the situations that we're supposed to operate in, but he just don't say love in all of them. So you get in the New Testament and you hear love, you get in the Old Testament and hear the direction about how to perform that love. Go ahead.
I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I taken away aught thereof, for any unclean use.
Right, that which I have separated to give unto Yahweh, I left that alone. I didn't go take away from it for any unclean use. Go ahead.
Nor given aught thereof for the dead, but I have hearkened to the voice of Yahweh my Elohim, and have done according to all that thou hast commanded me.
I have done according to all that you have commanded me. So when we talk about this thing of love, it is supposed to also show in the things that we do. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 1. See, he starts out saying you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and all your soul. He began the commandments with that. But see, we don't get that thing of love until we get to the New Testament and we start hearing all of these things about love. We take that differently. But he was talking about love in the Old Testament. Leviticus chapter 1, and let's read verses 1 through 10.
And Yahweh called unto Moshe and spake unto him out of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man of you bring an offering unto Yahweh, ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd, and of the flock. Of his offerings be a burnt sacrifice of the herd. Let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own voluntarily will at the door of the tabernacle.
Let him offer a male without blemish. Nothing can be wrong with it. He shall offer it of his own voluntary will. This is why when they were sacrificing Yahshua, they got ready to break his leg. He said, no. He got to die before that. Because at the moment his leg is broken, it then becomes a blemished sacrifice. He got to die before the leg is broken. Go ahead.
Of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahweh. Verse 4. And he shall put his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for him to make atonement for him.
Right. This is why you don't want a blemished sacrifice. See, now we offer spiritual sacrifices. We don't want to offer up anything blemish because these things go on our account. You don't want a blemish thing on your account. Go ahead.
And he shall kill the bullock before Yahweh, and the priests, Aaron's sons, shall bring the blood, and sprinkle the blood about upon the altar that is by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he shall flay the burnt offering and cut it into pieces, to his pieces. And the sons of Aaron, the priest, shall put fire upon the altar and lay the wood in order upon the fire. And the priests, Aaron's sons, shall lay the parts, the head and the fat, in order upon the wood that is on the fire, which is upon the altar. But his inwards and his legs shall he wash in water, and the priest shall burn all on the altar to be a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire, of a sweet savor unto Yahweh. And if his offering be of the flocks, namely of the sheep, or of the goats, for a burnt sacrifice, he shall bring it, a male without blemish.
He shall bring it, a male without blemish. This is why the spirit of Israel had to enter into this body of Yahshua. It was then a completely unblemished sacrifice because of the purity of the spirit that entered into that body. Let's go to Acts chapter 5. See, we were redeemed with an unblemished sacrifice, and it had to be with the love that Yahweh had for the children of Israel, that he would even allow the spirit of his son to go through that torment for some sinful people. Wasn't like we were some perfect people and he allowed this situation to happen. Acts chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 1 through 11.
But a certain man named Ananias, with Sapphira, his wife, sold a possession, and kept back part of the price, his wife also being privy to it, and brought a certain part, and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Cephas said, Ananias, why hath Satan filled thine heart to lie to the Holy Spirit, and to keep back part of the price of the land?
But Cephas said, Ananias, why has Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit and to keep back part of the price of the land? Go ahead.
While it remained, was it not thine own?
Uh-huh.
And after it was sold, was it not in thine own power?
Uh-huh.
Why hast thou conceived this thing in thine heart? Thou hast not lied unto men, but unto Elohim.
And do we consider that when we do the things that we do? Go ahead.
And Ananias, hearing these words, fell down and gave up the spirit.
Now, what we don't consider here is when Yahshua comes, it says that he is going to judge them with the sword of his mouth. What we're seeing is a prophecy of those same things, that the brother just spoke the word and the brother fell down and died. Understand, what do you think going to happen when Yahshua, he says he's going to judge them by the word of his mouth. He's going to speak the word and the word going to take care of the business. Go ahead.
And great fear came on all them that heard these things. And the young men arose, wound him up, and carried him out, and buried him.
Uh-huh.
And it was about the space of 3 hours after when his wife, not knowing what was done, came in.
Uh-huh.
And Cephas answered unto her, Tell me, whether ye sold the land for so much? And she said, Yes, for so much.
Right. So now there's an agreement that we're going to tell this lie together. Whereas this where a couple need to learn when to fight. Everybody want to agree. You got to learn. Somebody got to stand up so the whole house don't fall. But people will tell you that ain't love. Oh no, it was love that we fight first so that this mess don't come up in this house. So I'm gonna fight you now, so I ain't gotta fight Yahshua later. Somebody should have been fighting here. I ain't agreeing with this here. This right here, now you're gonna do that on your own. I ain't doing that. Go ahead.
Then Cephas said unto her, How is it that ye have agreed together to attempt the Spirit of Yahweh? Adonai, behold, the feet of them which have buried thy husband are at the door, and shall carry you out.
Right. Now, you see, this pool of love, had it been there in the front. See, this is where things appear to be different than what it is. Had there been a fight between this husband and wife beforehand, one or either both of them still get to live. But because there was no fight in the front, now you got two dead people being hauled out. So you got to know when to fight. You got to know that it was love if you had done this fight in the beginning instead of agreeing to the unrighteousness. See, this shows that we don't know enough about love like we supposed to. If you love somebody, sometimes you're going to have to fight with them. Because they're going to want to go one way and you trying to go the other way and the spirit going in a whole nother way. What you going to do? Well, we just going to have togetherness, so we going to do this together. I ain't going to let you go in the lake of fire by yourself. Come on. Now, get that bucket of ice and let's go on to hell. Come on. No, you go in that lake of fire by your damn self. I'm not going. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I was talking about this the other night. A lot of folks think that the reason they were put to death is because they didn't give all that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case. It's because they lied about it. Because they could have given whatever they wanted to give, but just tell the truth.
Absolutely, my brother. And I don't know if everybody could hear that, especially on the internet. He was saying that a lot of people think that they died because they didn't give all that they had. The issue was that they lied. They made a covenant that they were going to do one thing and then change that covenant. This is why it said in the beginning, before, was it not yours? Was it not in your own power? So when it was in yours and in your own power, you could have already said, hey, I'm going to sell this and I'm going to give you half the money of the price of the land. Mm-hmm. Then that was your covenant. Okay, fine. Then they would have expected half the price. But when you said you was going to sell it and give the whole thing, and then you showed up with half the price, you have broken the covenant. You have now lied unto Yahweh. But it was your mouth that told a lie. Did nobody make you offer anything? Did nobody make you do something? You agreed that this was what you were going to do. And when the time came, you did not come with that. You lied unto yourself with your own mouth. That's what the issue was. And then you have two individuals. So that's two opportunities for somebody to fix it. But we're going to have the appearance of love, so we're not going to argue. But at the end of the day, it's two dead people though. Mm-hmm. How about we just go ahead and get this fight on and we lick our wounds tomorrow, but we're going to be living though. How about that? We live to love another day. You might not love me so much today because I done had to deal with this situation. But we'll be available to love tomorrow. If I agree with you, our whole house falls down. It's not an option. you finish that, brother?
No.
Go ahead.
Verse 10. Then fell she down straightway at his feet, and yielded up the spirit. And the young men came in, and found her dead, and carrying her forth, buried her by her husband. And great fear came upon all the church, and upon as many as heard these things.
Well, at least they were together. That's what they wanted. At least they together. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 17. That ain't how I want to be together, though.
Ride or die.
See? I'd rather ride. I'd rather ride. I mean, everybody want to ride or die. You know what I'm saying? But I'd just rather ride, me myself. 1 Kings chapter 17 and verse 8. Yeah, that ride or die thing is absolutely awesome until the line becomes Yahweh. Oh, no. We're not going to cross that line. See, we ride or die as it comes down to the things concerning man. But we don't cross that line when it comes down to Yahweh. That's not a line that we're going to cross. That ain't going to be ride or die. That's going to be both of us die. 1 Kings chapter 17, and we're going to read verses 8 through 24.
And the word of Yahweh came unto him, saying, Arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belongeth to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee.
Mm-hmm.
So he rose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was there gathering of sticks. And he called to her and said, Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel, that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thine hand.
Now she is going to prepare her last meal to die. Go ahead.
And as she said, As Yahweh thy Elohim liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat and die.
Because I don't see any other way that we're going to have anything after this. So this is about to be, for lack of better words, our last supper. Go ahead.
And Elias said unto her, Fear not, go and do as thou hast said.
Now listen to this. Now this one right here gonna dry you for a minute now. Go ahead.
But make me thereof a little cake first.
Hold on, bro. Hold on, bro. Hold on. I'm about to make my last cake and die. Me and this boy. That's all I got. And you said make you one first? Wait a minute. Now this right here can get greatly twisted right here. See, this is where your prosperity folks kick in right here and take this message all the way to the left. Go ahead.
And bring it unto me, and after make for thee and for thy son.
Now, you got to have a certain pool of love to be able to deal with this right here. See, now if you done ran out of love, and understand, she's in a perfect situation to have ran out of love. She ain't got nothing else left. All right? She's down to her wit's end. She's in a perfect situation to be in a completely depleted pool of love. Yet, although she has nothing, she still has enough love to give him first fruit. Because that is the servant of Yahweh. This is a hard one to deal with right here. Go ahead.
For thus saith the Adonai Yah of Israel, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day that Yahweh sendeth rain upon the earth.
Now, you got to have enough faith. You got to have enough in your pool to be able to deal with this, because you got to deplete your stuff first. So you think. You got to go ahead and do this for him first. What did Yahweh say? Take care of the things concerning the kingdom, and I will take care of the things concerning you. Go ahead.
And she went and did according to the saying of Eliah.
Uh-huh.
And she, and he, and her house did eat many days.
Uh-huh.
And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of Yahweh, which he spake by Eliah. And it came to pass after these things, that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick. And his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him. And she said unto Eliah, What have I to do with thee, O thou man of Elohim? Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance, and to slay my son? And he said unto her, Give me thy son. And he took him out of her bosom, and carried him up into a loft, where he abode, and laid him upon his own bed. And he cried unto Yahweh, and said, O Adonai, my Elohim, hast thou also brought evil upon the widow, with whom I sojourn, by slaying her son? And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times, and cried unto Yahweh, and said, O Yahweh, my Elohim, I pray thee, let this child's soul come into him again. And Yahweh heard the voice of Eliah, and the soul of the child came into him again, and he revived. And Eliah took the child, and brought him down out of the chamber into the house, and delivered him unto his mother. And Eliah said, See, thy son liveth. And the woman said, Eliah, now by this I know that thou art a man of Elohim, and that the word of Yahweh in your mouth is truth.
Right. And she knew this by the situations that ended up happening. But imagine if she had not had enough left in her pool to make that cake for him first. Imagine had she not been able to do that. Had she already been in bitterness because she had lost everything. So then trying to keep the last stuff that she had, would she have then eventually lost the boy too? Go ahead, bro.
I was just going to say, in the beginning when we started, it was interesting that she had already made up in her mind to give her life in his life. But as it was prolonged and he actually lost his life, how that whole love regenerated and it all changed towards the end.
Exactly. When you add to the pool, brother, you got more stuff available unto you. See, that brother couldn't go a whole Sabbath without talking. You know what I'm saying? That brother, you know what I'm saying? That brother was like, look, that brother came out the front. You know what I'm talking about? So hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you know, he had to go ahead and put it out there. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 5. 2 Kings chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 1 through 14.
Now Naaman, captain of the host of king of Syria, was a great man with his master, and honorable, because by him Yahweh had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper.
And being a leper, there is certain, situations where the people are not going to want to be near you. Okay? Go ahead.
And the Syrians had gone out by companies, and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid. And she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, Would Elohim my master were with the prophet, that is, in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy.
Now, this is, they have carried away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid. Now, the little maid that they have carried captive says, Would Elohim my master were with the prophet. So, they treat this little captive maid. They must treat her very well, that she would want the man to be healed. If they treated her horribly, why would she be praying or even want the deliverance of the man who rules over her? See, it matters how you deal with things. Go ahead.
And one went in and told his master, saying, Thus and thus said the maid that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, Go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed, and took with him 10 talents of silver, and 6,000 pieces of gold, and 10 changes of raiment.
All right, now, understand now, the little maid must have some understanding here. She said in verse 2, it says, verse 3, she said unto her mistress, with Elohim, my master, were with the prophet that is in Samaria. What did he just do? He gathered up money to go to the king. That ain't what that little girl said. The little girl didn't say the king. See, she know where the blessings come from. See? But see, people in power like to deal with other people in power. She didn't say the king. Go ahead.
And the king of Syria said, forgive me, verse 6. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, now when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman, my servant, to thee, that thou mayest recover him of his leprosy. And it came to pass, when the king of Israel had read the letter, that he rent his clothes and said, am I Elohim, to kill and to make alive, that this man doth send unto me to recover a man of his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me.
Yeah, he's trying to start a fight. You know, he gonna ask me to heal the man. When I can't do it, then they gonna be over here trying to war with me. I can't heal nobody. Go ahead.
And it was so, when Elisha, the man of Elohim, had heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, that he sent to the king, saying, wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel.
Which is exactly what the little girl said. She didn't say king. She said prophet. Go ahead.
So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. But Naaman was wroth, and went away and said, behold, I thought he will surely come out to me, and stand and call on the name of Yahweh his Elohim, and strike his hand over the place, and recover the leper.
Right. Now he gonna tell him how to do it. He don't know nothing about nothing, but he gonna tell him how it ought to be done. See, when you're dealing with a shallow pool, people want to tell you with their shallow pool of love how things ought to be done. How about you just shut up and get healed? How about that?
Ain't this better bodies of water than this Jordan?
Check that out. Go ahead.
Are not Abana and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage.
That's what happened. When you're dealing with somebody with a shallow pool of love, they turn around and walk away in rage. I don't like this, the way this is going to be done. Yes, I want to be healed, but I want you to heal me my way. Go ahead.
And his servants came near and spake unto him and said, my father, if the prophet had bid thee do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it?
Right. If he said, go over here and kill a whole bunch of people and I'll heal you. All right, well, that sounds healing worthy. There, let me go kill these people. Go ahead.
How much rather then, when he says to thee, wash and be clean?
Right. Same thing dealing with Yahshua. Understand, you have to look at this stuff and then see the prophecy of what Yahshua did. And they got angry with him. You heal, go and sin no more. They got upset. Who are you? You got the power to do that. Go ahead.
Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of Elohim, and his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean.
Right, but it took somebody to convince him to come off of his own point, to come off of his own way. He didn't have enough love left in his own pool. So sometimes it helps that you may have other people around you that have some love in their pool, because you might have to borrow from it from time to time. Having somebody else there, they were able to convince him, hey man, you done turned around and walked away in rage. How about just try it? He was about to walk away from his healing. All because he didn't like the way it was done. Let's go to Matthew chapter 9. All right, we got one more that we're going to read after this one. Matthew chapter 9, and we're going to read verses 18 through 31.
While he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler and worshipped him, saying, My daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live.
There was already enough belief there, all right, that all you have to do is lay your hand and she's going to live. There's some belief there. Go ahead.
And Yeshua arose and followed him, and so did his disciples. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, If I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. But Yeshua turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith had made thee whole. And the woman was made whole from that hour. And when Yeshua came into the ruler's house and saw the minstrels and the people making a noise.
Now, understand it says, and the woman was made whole from that hour. You know, when you watch Christian television, you know they heal from that minute. You ever notice the difference? They get up and run across the church immediately. Now, Yeshua healed people. They didn't get healed, but within the hour. They didn't just get right up and start dancing. The Holy Ghost song didn't just immediately start playing. They didn't start dancing and all down the aisle and doing all of that from the same hour, not the same minute. Amazing how that happens on television, how it happens immediately like that. But the book says something completely otherwise. None of us pay that any attention. How it always happens immediately. But if you ever get to one of them places and they try to make you pass out, you'll pay attention to that from now on. See, it took somebody trying to make me pass out up front. Now I understand that's a game. Because that ain't what this book say. And how many of us would think that Yeshua actually, that it didn't work if it didn't happen till an hour later?
How many of us say, I don't think he even got the power. Look at that. He prayed for him or whatever. They still over there foaming at the mouth and everything. Ain't nothing wrong. I mean, he ain't fixing nothing. Look, baby, let's go.
And as soon as you walk down the hill, the person stand up. Within the hour, not within the minute. Do you even have the patience to wait on your own healing? Go ahead, bro.
You know, that right there can truly be a trying of your faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Verse 24. He said unto them, Give place, for the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. But when the people were put forth, he went in and took her by the hand.
But when the people were put forth, get them out of here. Because see, they bringing a non-belief spirit around, and it ain't going to do nothing but hinder what we're trying to do. So you need situations and circumstances to show who the non-believers are so you can get rid of them. Because they are going to hinder your process. So he says what he knows is going to bring out who the non-believers are. The little girl ain't dead, but she sleep. Boy, he's stupid. Yeah, get them out of here. All right, now we can work. Go ahead.
And the maid arose, and the fame hereof went abroad into all that land.
Right, because all them that laughed him to scorn, later on they see the girl. What? Wait a minute. Wasn't that the girl that was dead at the house? Yeah. So he did, and after we, oh, right. Go ahead.
And when Yeshua departed thence, 2 blind men followed him, crying and saying, Thou son of David, have mercy on us.
Now, consider, these are blind men who cannot see physically. Go ahead.
And when he was come into the house, the blind men came to him. And Yeshua saith unto them, Believe ye that I am able to do this?
Now, he asks a question. Do you believe? Is there enough in your pool to be able to sustain a belief that I'm able to do this? Understand, everybody else were able to see the things that he had done. They could not. They had believed by their hearing. Some of y'all will figure that out later on tonight. Go ahead.
They said unto him, Yes, Adonai. Then touched he their eyes, saying, According to your faith be it unto you. And their eyes were open, and Yeshua straightly charged them, saying, See that no man know it.
He straight charged them, see that no man know it. Go ahead.
But they, when they were departed, spread abroad his fame in all that country.
That's how you know they were black. All right, let's go to James chapter 5. That's how you know they were black right there. He said, don't tell nobody. They were like, we ain't going to tell nobody else. James chapter 5. Let us hear the conclusion of this matter. James chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 13 through 20.
Is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any merry? Let him sing psalms. Is any sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with the oil in the name of the Adonai.
Right. It takes a certain amount of faith. It takes a certain amount of love to even have in your pool to have the belief that this can happen for you. But then you have sick people who won't even tell you they're sick. So how's somebody going to pray for them? I mean, you know something wrong with somebody's leg when they limp. And you can see, there's something definitely wrong with that, you know what I'm saying? Because they got a pimp walk. They're just limping to the side right there. You can see that part. But what about when there are other issues that may be internally? You can't see that. And then if they hide that and hold it in, how does anyone know to pray for them? So are they then prolonging their own deliverance? And is that pride? What is that? Go ahead, bro.
And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Adonai shall raise him up. And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. Confess your faults one to another.
Right. There's a reason why we have counseling and we go through things, but some look and think it's actually a badge of honor to never have had to confess any faults. And at the end of the day, you'll find that those are the brokest individuals. They think it's a badge of honor. No, it's actually a testament to why you still broke. Go ahead.
And pray one for another, that ye may be healed.
How you gonna pray for somebody who won't admit they got an issue? How you gonna pray for that? That's why certain things need to come out. Go ahead.
The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much.
Right. It may be that you don't have enough in your pool for that prayer to be answered. But the person next to you got just enough left in their pool. When you put y'all prayers together, boom, here comes something. But you keep trying to work on your own pool because it's pride there. And you ain't got enough in your account for him to cash that prayer. See, you can go to the bank 20 times and keep talking to them people. But them people gonna look you straight in the eye. Boo-boo, it's not enough in this account to cash this check. I don't care how emotional you show back up. I don't care how much you cry at this bank teller. I don't care what clothes you have on. I don't care what song and dance you give me. There is not enough in this account for me to cash that check. Bring somebody with you. Go ahead.
Verse 17. Elijah was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and earth brought forth her fruit. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins.
Right. As it is written, love shall cover the multitude of sins. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.